Hello everyone, Sunrise Extra on a Monday. We hope you had a wonderful weekend. Miss Brenda is back. She had a week off and much deserved, and I know you got a chance to sleep in a little bit, which is always so nice.
Boy, when my alarm went off this morning at 2:15, I was like, where am I? At what work? How? What?
Totally.
Yeah, it was a nice, just kind of chill weekend. We were here. It was a staycation, not a vacation. But I could not disconnect from the news because of everything that was going on.
Yeah.
Even when I wasn't on our app for KGW, it was like Oregon and Portland specifically was making news nationally. Internationally, everything is about the protests and the feds these days.
Yep, we've got a lot of national reporters in town on our 8th week. It's nice of them to join us now that we've been going through this for a while. And a lot of people really kind of, you see the headlines of Portland under siege, and you were saying, Brenda, you've gotten calls from friends well out of the area saying, is everything okay? What's going on there? What do you kind of tell them when they call and ask that?
Well, they're specifically asking about, the viral stuff about unmarked cars and guys in camouflage putting protesters in vehicles and then speeding away, kidnapping. So I'm like, that happened and it's here, but we're not under siege per se. I mean, it just depends on where you are and what you see. Like most places,
you wouldn't know what's happening at all. It's literally like a 3-block radius downtown.
Yes.
And occasionally some nights on Lombard, where the police union headquarters are, or on MLK and Killingsworth, where the North Precinct is. We've also seen, a night here or two at the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office on East Burnside we saw last week. It's tiny, tiny pockets. So if you're watching us from, we frequently get a lot of you Sunrise Extra family members well outside of the area. So if you are seeing these headlines, if you are not in those spots, you wouldn't know, anything is going on. So that's kind of important to put into perspective.
I know we've done a lot of retrospective stuff over the last week and beyond, just looking at the history of protests in Portland. I believe it was Bush, right? Am I thinking that we got the name Little Beirut, the protests that were going on there? I do believe that the character of this, at least part of this city, is when something like that happens, the gloves come off and it does make it worse. Like Portland has not been able to quell it, especially outside the federal, courthouse downtown. It seems like there's always something going on since these things started, but it definitely has morphed, and now it's morphing again. I mean, where will it end? That's the big question. I'm not exactly sure what. We were talking to one of our producers, when we were in the newscast, our Sunrise show, and he said, I think it's going to end in the courts. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think really, and we have at the top of our YouTube page, it's highlighted there, pretty amazing and eye-opening video of a black police officer with Portland Police. His name is Jakari Jackson. He's with Portland Police. He's got a 27-minute video. He was interviewed by the Portland Police information officer, and it is a very, very honest look at what it's like for a black officer in Portland who has to go out and face these crowds nightly. He is getting screamed at. He is getting racial slurs against him, in the name of whatever this movement is. And he has I really encourage you to watch it. We have over 1,400 comments, 139,000 views of this on our YouTube page. But I think really a big crux of it, to anyone, who hears about this, is over the weekend, maybe for the 3rd time now, black leaders in Portland came out. Black officers have come out, and business owners of all colors have come out and said, we have to stop this. No more. Businesses are getting ruined. People don't want to. I drove through that little section of downtown last week. I was going down to interview people about e-scooters, and I went through that area, and it is completely trashed. Trash cans burnt to the ground in a pile of rubble. I mean, like paint and all kinds of, things where fireworks were thrown, and you can see the marks on the streets, graffiti and damage everywhere. Like, no one would want to spend any time down there. And I just feel awful for, you know, a sandwich shop or like something that's trying to get back on their feet right now. But these leaders, in the name of this movement, are saying stop it.
Can we just take a look at some of the video too? Because I just want to give a broader perspective like we were talking about, Nina. This is Friday evening. And again, you have these pockets, these places, these blocks. But for the most part, downtown looks a lot like this. There you see one of the signs, you know, the businesses we
23rd.
See you, we hear you. Exactly. So it is a very strange, surreal mix of things that you will see as you move through downtown Portland. But you know, you've got it. We heard from one of the owners of Huber's Restaurants, the iconic Huber's Restaurant. It was one of my favorites in Portland. And he was one of the business owners saying, you've got to do something. The violence is killing our business. Yeah. And you know, the pandemic already killed our business. And now we have this extra layer. So, you know, if that was my business and I was, you know, pouring my heart and soul and money into it, and people came by and blasted it. I mean, it's concerning. I would be furious.
Yeah. I just want to know, to what end? Like, what do they want? You know, I feel like a lot of people that go down there late into the night, you know, you're gonna get hurt. You know, you're down there at 2 a.m. If you have shields and you have, you know, homemade batons and you have commercial grade fireworks, you're not there for a social justice message. You're just there to break things.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned
bad stuff's going to happen to you.
Right,
you're going to get hurt.
The black leaders in Portland, Matt Hennessy, the pastor over at Vancouver Avenue Baptist Church, is one of the ones saying, we want to sit down with you. We want to listen to what you want so they can come to some resolution. I mean, that's what he's pitching. Whether that's going to happen or not is a whole other thing. You know, no justice, no peace has definitely become a highly charged political slogan. Yeah. But I'm going to take the 30,000-foot view. I know people will hear this and they'll make their own judgments, but what I believe in my heart is true, and it doesn't have to be in Portland. It's about the world. If people are hurting, there is not going to be peace, and it may not be this kind of like disruption, but it is something. We can't treat each other the way we're treating each other and expect society to be functioning and healed, right? There is something about it. Now, there are ways to do it, and there are ways not to do it. And blowing things up, in my opinion, not the way to do it. Yeah. But, you know, we have a lot of work to do, and we have to figure out, we're all Americans, right? We are all Americans, black, white, whatever color. And we need to figure out how we're going to move forward. We have to start having dialogue. I mean, I'm looking at the stream here, and people are so angry. You know, everybody has a particular opinion, you know, and we can't arrest everybody and on either side and put them in jail. We need to figure out how to move forward, and it is a daunting task. Yeah.
I just get really frustrated when, you know, there's all this finger pointing at police or federal officers who are arresting people or who do use tear gas in a situation of late night things when officers are being hurt and people are not following lawful orders. It's not a negotiation if the police tell you to do something, and in the end it's for your own safety to disperse and move away and not damage property or hurt others. I mean, you can't throw mortars, you can't throw, we've seen, you know, like seriously huge slingshots with big ball bearings being shot at officers. I mean, one has a broken foot. There's a firefighter who came to put out a fire, and I can't remember what he broke something. It was possibly his foot too. And I mean, you can't do that and then say, oh, put your hands up and say, oh, you can't arrest me. This is, you know, this is out of control. I can't believe these federal officers are doing this. Well, you know, I'm not getting arrested because I'm not down there at 2 a.m. And then for those people who are saying, well, they're targeting journalists, or, you know, I wasn't doing anything. Well, you're in the crowd. It is awfully difficult to, you know, pinpoint through the crowd of who is doing exactly what and who is there just watching.
What do you think, and what have you heard this past week? Because you've been here covering it, working when I was off. What are you hearing about the whole states' rights, local action with, well, I guess it's the governor, it is the mayor. They're saying we don't want the federal government here.
Yeah, I mean, that's all that they've said so far is like, we know we can handle it. But then it's been interesting to see the tactics of just last night, you know, in the police press release that they put out now every single morning, saying, oh, we were hands off. We're going to let the feds do it. So be mad at them. We didn't come out of the building. Only the federal officers came out at a couple points overnight and Saturday night. And so the police can say, oh, it's not us. And so I don't know. I mean, they are using it to their advantage, I suppose, of like, here, you guys go disperse the crowds, feds. See what it's like for you.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me a little bit. Daryl Turner, the president of the police union, has been pretty passionate about the violence has to stop. And, he's had public statements and it sounded like, okay, we need to take a more aggressive approach. Maybe aggressive isn't the right word, but a more active approach to quell this. And then last night with Portland police saying, not us. The feds are doing it. We're not engaging last night with the protesters. I wonder if that's going to continue.
Yeah, you were reading an article about that. There was that video of that veteran.
Oh,
Brenda?
Yeah. Let me.
What did that say about him? Because he had kind of an interesting backstory.
Yeah, he did. He's 53 years old. He's from here in Portland. The video went viral. He's a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, former member of the Navy Civil Engineer Corps. He said that he wanted to know what the officers involved, the feds, thought of the oath that they had sworn to protect and defend the Constitution. So he said Saturday evening he headed downtown. He wanted to ask them that question. Let's see. He was trying to keep his distance, he said, as a host of health problems kind of made him vulnerable amid, the pandemic and everything else. He asked one woman when the feds would show up, but she said it was also her first protest. This is his first protest, by the way. What a way to make it. Oh, so he says just as he was about to leave, the federal officers emerged. They rushed a line of protesters nearby, knocking them to the ground. His name is David. He walked toward a gap in the line, calling out to the officers, and he asked them, why are you not honoring your oath? Why are you not honoring your oath to the Constitution? He says an officer, that's what we're looking at right there. The officer, he says, trained his weapon on David's chest as several agents pushed him, sending him stumbling backward. He regained his center and tried again. Another agent raised his baton and began to beat David, and then he flips him off as he walks away there. But I mean, when I saw this, I didn't know any of his background or that he was a veteran or, why he was down there. I was just struck by him, the guy's wailing on him, and he doesn't even waver.
Yeah, that's awful. I mean, that's awful to see. I'm sure he was told many times to move back, move back, move back. But still, you do not warrant or deserve this just standing there. So, I mean, there are definitely these cases.
Do we have the wall of moms? That's the other thing that caught my attention.
What was the yellow significance? Do you know?
I don't know.
A lot of them were yellow. I don't know if that was just to stand out or I don't know what the significance of that was.
But they were down there as well. I wondered if, there they are, I wondered if with all the controversy over the federal government coming in, and certainly any time the President of the United States weighs in, any president, but especially this president, people take sides and they, they're all in. So I wondered, I mean, the crowds that we have seen are starting to pick up again, because at some point it looked like things were, even though they had hot spots and flare-ups, it felt like there weren't as many people down there, and now it seems like there are more people out.
I see, the moms it's a great photo, and and everything. And a bunch of them had signs, you know, Black Lives Matter, say their names, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. What do you say when the black leaders of this city are telling you, stay home, don't come downtown, don't do this anymore, we need a break? You're not helping our cause. I mean, literally, how do you put those two people together in a room? And I know, you know, these moms have a great, you know, a good reputation. It's like a cool thing to see, you know, women down there uniting, and they had some, you know, very witty signs of like, you know, I'm a mom, I'm disappointed in you, says mom, or something. And they were funny signs. But like at the end of the day, if the people are telling you, we don't want this kind of help, you know,
I think there's a difference.
I don't understand.
I'm just going to point this out, and again, you know, I know you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, but the black leaders in Portland are not saying don't come downtown. They're not saying don't peacefully protest. They're specifically
That's what I mean.
saying
I'm sorry,
do
yes.
not be violent.
Yes, you don't need to
I feel
stay
like the
till 2
moms
a.m.
aren't in that particular group. What they're asking for is, you know, stop setting fires, stop, you know, attacking, you know, the building, stop, because that's taking away from the message. State Senator Lou Frederick, a week or so ago, a couple weeks now, I thought he had a really interesting take. We went to interview him because we could not get a hold of anybody at City Hall. I think Hardesty's staff got back to us, but without a comment. Nobody else answered our emails or calls or whatever they were. But Lou Frederick was basically saying, it's almost the height of white paternalism to say we know how to do it better, and we're going to go and we're going to, you know, be violent, or we're going to, you know, deface property. And he's like, we don't want that. You know, speaking as a man of color and as a state senator, he's like, we don't want that kind of help.
Yeah, so. I mean, it is extremely powerful. The marches we've seen over the bridges and the gatherings, that is awesome, you know. But once you get into the, you know, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. territory of violence, and these outright being declared riots, I mean, people have been arrested for assaulting officers and some serious charges of lighting fires in buildings where there are employees still working. I mean, that has to stop. And I just don't understand. I don't know. I know a lot of you will disagree with me, but I'm just kind of over it. I don't know.
Well, I think a lot of people do agree with you. That's one of the reasons that I'm back here, is you know, that first weekend.
Safety.
You know, again, not that people are targeting me, but media, with the big KGW sign down there on the studio on the square, is a big fat target, potentially. Let's see. I'm just trying to read here. See. What
I know there's so many. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah, exactly. Bobby Richardson, good morning to you. She says, I think all leaders have lost credibility a long time ago. Yeah, you know. Let's see. Maggie Leach says, so disgusted with what they have done to our beautiful city. And she says, I'm very glad that the feds are here.
Nicole, I know you disagree with me. I hear. Just quit talking and listen. I know. Let's see. Jennifer Taft says, Daryl Turner and them do not speak for all black people. Did you see the end where one lady said she lives in the neighborhood, she was a person of color and gets harassed by cops? Yeah.
And let's see, Duran Aaron Andrews says what they're doing in P-Town is a test run for more to come, and then martial law is upon us. Let's see. Robert Pandora, they are not protesting. All they want is to defund the police, taunt them, and taunt the feds.
And just night after night, I mean, I don't know, like how is this going to end, do you think? It is going to be, you think, a court order on the behalf of federal officers in Portland? I wonder. They've taken away the tear gas only in life or death situations, supposedly, for Portland police. Federal police, we've seen, use it. And I've seen even a couple like restaurants. Naomi Pomeroy, the chef and owner of Beast, and pretty nationally known. She was tweeting this weekend to boycott Marriott hotels and Enterprise Rent-A-Car because they are the ones that are housing and renting cars to the federal officers in Portland. And a really interesting mix of comments on that post I saw. Some folks, in the food world who follow her, who work at Marriott Hotel, cook in the kitchen and say, well, thanks a lot. Now we're trying to get our lives back in gear and make some money here at work. And now you're telling people to boycott Marriott hotels, where I have nothing to do with who they rent rooms to, and now you're kind of putting my livelihood in danger. And another person said that they did call Enterprise with kind of a script saying, hey, I'm going to boycott you because you're renting vans to federal officers in Portland, Oregon. And even the call taker supposedly at Enterprise says, I have nothing to do personally with that, of course, but I support you boycotting Enterprise. So it's very interesting, the tentacles that this kind of reverberates in the community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And real quick, because I know we need to go, we're getting close to our deadline, but I was just looking at this New York Times article. I was Googling just to see kind of, what was out there. And this says an internal memo from the Department of Homeland Security warned that federal agents deployed to protect federal buildings in Portland did not have specific training in riot control or mass demonstrations. So this is a memo that was prepared for Chad Wolf, the acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. It is interesting, Nina, to see how things have morphed since the beginning of this, because at some point when the feds were coming in, we were told by city leadership that they were going to be behind the scenes, that they were doing no crowd control, that was all local, and now over time we're here.
Yeah, very interesting. All right. Keep up the conversation. We really appreciate you joining us live for Sunrise Extra. This is far from over. Stay tuned for what tomorrow brings. We'll see you tomorrow.